We're so happy to have this amazing doula from LA, Miss Carmen Thomas-Paris. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
So
Thank you
exciting.
for having me.
You make me want to have another one so you can be my doula.
Well,
Feeling the energy.
Yes, I already love you. Okay,
Oh.
let me ask you, because when I had my daughter, I had no idea what a doula was. I mentioned something about it. My mom was like, no, that's if you're having a home birth and not going to the hospital, and you're going to the hospital, so you can't have one of those. And I was like, oh. And then my friend was like, no, I had a doula. That's not right. That's a midwife. So can you tell us a little bit about the difference in what you do?
Yeah, and that's very common. I think it's becoming a term that people are hearing more and more, but it's still very often I get...
It sounds sexy, like the term doula.
Well, it's a Greek word, so, you think Greek princesses and things like that. No, actually, I have a funny story about the word doula. It does mean, in Greek, it means servant. So it's the meaning is really mother to the mother.
Oh, that's so nice.
But I had a couple very early on in my doula-ing that were both professors, and they interviewed me, and they had heard about a doula, and they weren't really sure what it was. And so after our initial interview, because they're professors and researchers, they went and looked everything up. In our next meeting, they said, "We cannot call you our doula. Do you know what that means?" And I said, "Well, I think it's pretty much like servant." And they said, "No, in the time of doulas in Greece, a doula was a slave. And the things that doulas had to do were really like, we're going to call you our birth assistant."
Our birth assistant.
So I think, in terms of, I get the question a lot, so are you a midwife? And I'd say that one of the differences is that a midwife is almost more similar to what your doctor, OBGYN would be. They're there for the baby. But although the mode of care of midwifery, the model of care of midwifery is different than an OBGYN care, a doula is really there to support the family, the mother, the partner, spouse, and the baby. And really the baby is everybody's boss.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Forever.
But a doula doesn't offer medical support. I really feel like a doula is there to sort of help the whole team, whether the couple has chosen doctor or midwife, whether it's in hospital, birth center, home. A doula is there to help the whole team feel good. So when I am with a couple that already has their doctor chosen, if they're choosing doctor, if I haven't worked with that doctor, I really want that doctor to come into the room at the birth, or the nurse, and feel like, the tone that is set
energy.
In the room that feels good, it smells good, it's relaxing, and then they want to be there and they feel this energy, which is
That's
what
so
the baby
interesting.
feels.
Yeah,
And we do all of that because if mom feels relaxed or supported and safe, then the baby feels that directly from the mom. And then when the baby comes out and comes into the habitat, hopefully, they feel, everybody there to welcome this baby in such a loving, atmosphere.
I think that's so important because I feel like in preparation for when you're pregnant having a baby, it's all about the baby and the shower and the stuff and what the baby needs and what's best for the baby and is this good for the baby, is this good for the baby, but really what's good for the mom is good for the baby, and having someone like you there that's a support system for the baby and the family, that's so important. I think that's so overlooked. I definitely overlooked it with my first one. Now I'm going to have a third since I met you and I want you to be a doula.
It's kind of how I became a doula. I knew that I loved the whole process. I love babies. I love being pregnant. I love the birth. So I thought, well, either I'm going to have to keep having babies, and my husband's like, we can't afford it,
If you want to be pregnant, can you be my surrogate? Because I'm a terrible pregnant person. So that would be awesome. It would be awesome.
So, Carmen, at what point should a woman seek out a doula? At the start of their pregnancy, halfway through, or towards the end?
Well, it seems like now it depends on when they hear about a doula. If they know about a doula, I also teach prenatal yoga, so sometimes I have the women in my prenatal yoga class hear about it in class, and then look into it. Sometimes, so if they come to the prenatal yoga class I had a student the other day who was 8 weeks pregnant, and she hears about it. Then you can hire a doula as early as first trimester or as late as I've had a woman come in at 38 weeks and go, oh, I want that kind of support.
Yeah, is there anything a doula does if you do get a doula super early that you do during the process of the pregnancy, or is it mostly just at the birth?
Yeah, I mean, I think, for me, the earlier the better, because really that window goes so fast.
Right.
And I do work differently with a couple that might come to me at 8 months pregnant than 3 months pregnant.
Do you sense the nerves being different when they meet you at the end versus when they come and see you?
And I always tell couples that the fears they have when they meet with me at 2-3 months, I know they're not going to feel that at the end. And then also that's how, as a doula, we're also working to help them, alleviate those fears or anxieties and the myths. There's a lot of myths around
just talking
the
to
whole
you. I
process.
feel more relaxed.
More relaxed,
right?
Yeah.
I swear.
But I guess it gives you that time to be able to, the earlier the better, because it gives you that time to be able to connect with that mom and
now, have you had any resistance from any, OBs or doctors as far as, you being a part of the birth? I know that my second doctor was a little weary of doulas because she, for whatever reason. And then I've had my new OB loves doulas. He recommends everyone get a doula. So have you had any kind of experiences like that?
Luckily, not a lot. If there is a new doctor that I'm working with, one of the things I do that it's not in the standard kind of doula package, but if it's a doctor I haven't worked with, I like to go to an appointment with the couple, maybe in that last trimester, and not to say anything to the doctor, just to be in the room, and the mom might introduce me, and I'll just sit there and be quiet, and just so they feel like, oh, okay, this is a calm doula who's not going to be like, what are you doing? So I'm very aware of that. I'm very aware of having, at the baby's birth, having that room, even if it is a doctor and there is some tension, or if it is a nurse and there's some tension. I think it's part of my Southern roots. I'm able to just find a way to have them all feel like a team, and not, you don't want to be at a birth where a mom needs to be at her most vulnerable, and the baby is coming into the world, and have there be any battling. It's just not worth it.
Right.
So.
Carmen, I know for me, my birth plan was so important to me. I had specific ideas as to how I wanted my birth to play out. So how do you make sure that the woman's birth plan goes according to plan in that environment?
Well, I start probably by first saying that I like to call it birth preferences and not a plan, since it's...
That takes the pressure off.
Since, and then we do a lot with listening to the baby. When I have couples who do research and have all these questions and want to make the right decision for their baby, I quite often, because there's so much information out there, have them, tune into your baby. You'll know which way to go. And woman is the most intuitive at that point. So the research is great, but that element of there's this being that's coming in that, has ideas as well. And so, to really make it this collaborative process.
I think that's so great what you just said about helping the woman use her intuition, and because I think a lot of that goes out the window when you get in front of an expert, like you feel like your OB or the doctor, and you get to the hospital and
forget the expert. Once you're there at the hospital, you're in like survival mode, and you're not even thinking about what am I feeling, what are these emotions. I think you kind of lose everything, like you're saying.
And how great it is to have someone there, not to give you more instructions, but to help you get in touch with how you feel about something.
Yes, just supporting the woman.
These babies, that's another reason why I feel this calling.
Yeah.
These babies, I feel, partly a guardian of these babies. And that doesn't mean that there's a right or wrong decision. It just means the mom going to her heart that is linked to baby's heart. And then there's a whole wealth of wisdom and information that happens.
That's so beautiful, honestly.
And then I think, going back to the sort of birth plan, as a doula, there's also could be a myth that doulas have this agenda of their, or opinions that there are, a right or wrong way to do it, or you should give birth naturally, or you should not have
No,
drugs.
that's true. I was definitely scared. I was like, oh no, but what if I end up wanting an epidural? I don't want a doula because then she won't let me have one.
Yeah, that, or breastfeeding, any of those things. And I feel like one of the reasons why I love being a doula is to empower a woman to be at choice, to learn from her baby, to learn to go through this, to go through this journey that can be transformational or not. It's really up to the family, but to have that, have the choice. So that's really what I love about the sort of the prenatal part, is giving all this information and letting, having those choices. Because what breaks my heart as a doula is when I meet couples on the other side who didn't know that they had certain options or choices, and then they're like, oh, I wish I would have known. So my job as a doula is to also make sure they know all of their options and choices, not to make any decisions for them, but to make sure that they know what's possible. It's their baby's birthday party, and so much of the time
it's a celebration.
I wish I had you, because my parties were not that fun.
Oh, well, I mean, it is a challenging time too. So it's not that it's like all fun, but it is. That's another part of my role, is to, at a time when a lot of women might be sick and throwing up through their whole labor and birth, and then their mind goes to, oh, something's wrong, I feel sick, oh, I'm in the hospital, I'm having, my job is also to keep connecting them to this purpose of what's going on, not letting their mind go to the past, or going feeling that they're in the hospital because something's wrong, or because they are throwing up, so it means they're sick. It's all, this positive process of bringing their baby here, even if, I remember that myself. It didn't feel, I wasn't saying right afterwards, oh, I want to do this again, although I did within a week. So it was that memory that left. And I have actually had a woman say right after she gave birth, that was awesome, I want to do it again.